Welcome to Generations. On the air and sponsored by the City of St. Paul since 2004, the mission of our program is to help people 50 and better lead happy, healthy, and productive lives. Here's today's moderator, Nadia Giordana.
Welcome to the show. I'm Nadia Giordana, and co-hosting with me today, Diane Winkler. Hi, Diane.
Hi, it's so nice to be here. Thank you for everything.
And Ed Noreen.
Hello. I'm so excited to have some place to go.
And we're going to be talking about the importance of hobbies in retirement. Our guest is Jeff DeZellar. Hi, Jeff.
Well, hello. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
And we're going to be talking about your guitar playing, as I understand.
I believe that's correct.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of a guitar do you favor? Any special music that you might favor?
Okay, those are two different questions. I think
Yes.
my favorite guitar at the moment is a Gibson Les Paul electric guitar, solid body.
Okay.
And probably my second favorite guitar is a guitar I learned on close to 40 years ago, a Fender Stratocaster,
Oh,
sort
I
of the
recognize
ultimate
that.
rock and roll guitar. And what I'm going to be using today to perform with is an acoustic guitar. It's simpler than bringing all the amplifiers and cables and everything else. But I have four guitars. I also have a Gibson ES 335, it's called, which is a hollow body guitar, kind of a rockabilly sort of a guitar. And I love them all. You know, they're good for different styles of music, and I play them all and enjoy it a lot. As far as my preference of styles, I grew up in the 50s and 60s, so I started off with Elvis Presley and Johnny Cash and Buddy Holly and the Everly Brothers, all before I was 10 years old. And really enjoyed their music. And then, of course, in the 60s, the British Invasion, the Beatles were the ultimate. And really enjoyed them, the Rolling Stones, the Who. And then probably my favorite guitarist is Jimi Hendrix, the late, great Jimi Hendrix, who I think is considered almost universally the number one guitarist in history. And it's going to take a real magician to displace him. So I enjoy covering other songs. I've written quite a few songs back 30 years ago, but I haven't written any recently. But I cover Jimi Hendrix. I cover a lot of the old blues masters, Howlin' Wolf and the Kings, Albert and B.B. and Freddie King. Robert Johnson, one of the original great acoustic guitarists. But I also have a friend I play with, Roland, and we play folk music. He started off in the 60s with Bob Dylan and into the 70s with John Prine. So he's an acoustic guy, and we play a lot of those songs. I've tried my hand at the harmonica to try to sort of ape Bob Dylan and can play a few notes there. But you know, I enjoy all kinds of music, and I like doing pop music, but primarily blues music and rock and roll, I would say.
So this is an avocation that you've had, excuse me, for your entire life, really.
Well, Natty, I wish it was. I wish I had started when I was 10 years old, because that's where the truly great players come from. I didn't start till I was in my mid-30s in Los Angeles, and a couple friends of mine from work had played since they were 15, and we got a garage band together, and we played in my studio apartment in Venice, California, so we call it the Venice Studio. And we wrote a lot of songs. We played together for about 10 years. And then I put down the guitar. My daughter was starting to grow up, and I got involved in her activities, and I was very busy with work, and didn't play for about 15 years. And then I was planning on retiring in 2013, and I told myself I was going to pick up the guitar again. I was going to buy myself a Les Paul, and I was going to take lessons and try to learn how to play it. And one kind of funny anecdote, I have a great teacher, Jack, and after a few sessions with him, I realized I'd been playing in the key of A minor my entire life, and that there's all these other keys out there. So it's really expanded my repertoire, and I just really enjoy it a lot. I play a couple hours a day, and really I have my own studio at home. We sort of took out the guest bedroom, so no more overnight guests. But I have a nice music studio with all my heroes on the wall, you know, Jimmy and Bob Marley and Elvis, and it feels like a real studio, so I enjoy it a lot.
Oh, that's wonderful. It really is.
Oh, I
Makes you
think
happy.
that's fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'd like to, as a writer, I'm a writer and an artist, and it's interesting, when you do, you become part of the music. It's like time stops, you know, and it brings a serenity, a tranquility to your being that is just amazing.
Well, it's really true, and you know, I do other things. I'm a voracious reader, and I do yoga, and I meditate, and aerobics, and one thing all those have in common with playing guitar is when you're doing them, it's very hard to think about anything else, let alone worry about anything else. So it's like your little escape from life. Not that I have a lot to worry about anymore, but it's just a kind of an oasis, and all these activities are, you know, so absorbing, as you say, Ed, that there's really not much room for anything else. And I think with music, you've got to really focus on what you're doing, or you're not going to be playing very well.
You actually had an interesting career. You want to share with people what you used to do?
Well, I was an environmental engineer, proud graduate of the University of Minnesota. And I worked for 40 years, had a 40-year professional career, and it was two basic parts that were quite different from each other. One was environmental restoration, which is taking natural habitat, for example, that's been damaged or destroyed in some way, and then rehabilitating it so it's useful for critters. It's basically for critters and the guys that live in the ecosystem. So I did that. An interesting part of that was at the St. Paul District of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which is a federal agency where I retired from, and basically worked on river restoration on the upper Mississippi River. Those that may be familiar with the lock and dam system created a series of freestanding lakes, and it pretty much destroyed them in terms of their habitat value. And so I worked on a program that rebuilt a lot of the islands that used to be everywhere in the Mississippi before the locks and dams. And basically you've had a comeback of trumpeter swans and bald eagles and all sorts of birds and wildlife that have taken advantage of the work that we did to sort of repair what we had previously done. And then the other half of my career was in Los Angeles. I worked for a large water district in Los Angeles, and I managed the environmental compliance and chemical emergency response program. And one might think that a water district is a nice, clean industry, but we had an average of 1 hazardous waste removal every day.
Wow.
Calendar year. We had thousands of tons of liquid chlorine on site for water treatment. And if that gets away, it's an extremely serious issue. And so I worked on that for about 20 years. I would say the environmental compliance was much more stressful than the environmental restoration, but it was all good. I look back, and there are probably some choices I could have made differently, but I don't have any regrets.
It does sound good.
It was good fun. I don't miss it. I enjoy what I'm doing now, and I think I worked enough.
I think you're doing that correctly. And, you know, back to the hobbies in retirement, we're going to come back in a few minutes and hear you play. I'm looking forward to that. And before we do that, we're going to take a couple of minutes and work on a question we have here. This is a surprise question for us to read here for the first time. put to us by the producer, and we'll be discussing it. I haven't seen it, you haven't seen it, and we'll see how this goes for us. Two old sayings seem to contradict each other. Money makes the world go round, and money is the root of all evil. What's harmful and what's beneficial about money, and which is the most essential characteristic? That's a big one.
Oh, is that it?
Who wants to start?
There's just so much
I know.
it encompasses. I don't know.
There was an article in the paper just the other day saying that people that have money, wealthy people, live, I think, almost 10 years longer than people who are financially stressed. It just makes life a lot easier, takes away a lot of stress.
So that's a good thing about money.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
A higher quality life, at least materially, and a longer life.
Well, look at the Queen in England and the Queen Mother, over 100 years old. So that has to, a life of privilege tends to maybe eliminate some stress. There's probably stresses we don't know about, but what about money as the root of all evil? I don't think of money as very evil, but I
don't
think it can
either.
promote evil actions.
Do you think it's evil?
I think we're a capitalistic society, and I think that a lot of times corporations will make a decision to cheapen a product or change a product. We look at the financial piece of it. I think Flint, Michigan, with the water situation, is an example
Yes.
where money was put ahead of people's safety.
That's right.
I think it does corrupt. If you look at our political system, that a certain percentage of our population can spend so much money buying influence in our government. So money is definitely intangible, and it does encourage greed, dishonesty.
Yes.
So I think that's where the idea is.
Yeah, I think that's probably
That's why I've made
true.
sure I had no money. I never want to be corrupted by money, so, I've lived with poverty.
Are you happy?
No, I'm looking for somebody to
No,
move
you're
in.
not.
I'm looking for a wealthy woman. If you're out there, I'm really quite cute, very funny, entertaining.
Well, and I think we think about health maybe as more beneficial than money is. What do you think?
Well, I would say I don't totally agree with either one of those sayings, that it doesn't in and of itself make the world go round, because the human interaction is critical, and that basically makes the world go round more so. And I would say I don't think it's also the root of all evil. It can manifest itself, particularly as Ed said, when people want to get more than they really need. Because once you've got $1 billion, what do you need $2 billion for? And like I say, I've done a lot of reading, especially kicked it up since retirement, and you go back from Plato through Dante, through Cervantes, through Balzac, through Dostoevsky, and there's a lot of evil portrayed in those books that isn't really directly related to money. I mean, money can exacerbate it, and the quest for money, I think, can get out of hand. But these authors might have the point of view where there's some, even back to the Bible, which I read, even though I'm not a particularly religious person, I thought, well, you can't really say you're well read until you've read the Bible. And I did read it, and there's been a lot of evil, if you will, throughout human history that's really not correlated with money at all. So,
No, it's more associated with power and some other things, isn't it?
It is.
well, with power and envy, the 7 deadly sins.
When I was a child and my dad was playing with Whoopie John, which has always been a wonderful band, and when he was through for the day, he'd go up to his apartment, and my dad and I'd go up there, and he would take out the ironing board, and he used to iron his money. And I sat on the floor. I sat on the floor, and I couldn't figure it out. I could not. What in the world would he want to do that for? And then years later, I finally figured it out. I don't think he wanted the germs.
I suppose it would disinfect
Germs.
it, yeah.
But I'd sit there and watch him do that, and it just bugged me.
Well, I do find it's interesting that when there is when they get the really big lotteries, and it's so huge that all of a sudden everybody's playing the game. Now, I do play once a week, but I can take an extra million or two.
Oh,
But
sure.
when it got to be up, what was it, half a billion or whatever
Right.
it was, I thought, that's just way too much money. I wouldn't even
I wouldn't
want the
either.
headaches that came
Either.
with that.
Well, and I think,
So I quit playing that time.
and I'm not an authority on this, but I'm just reading the headlines or anecdotes that they've studied. They've studied people who win the huge multi-million-dollar lotteries, and some it puts on Easy Street, but other ones it puts on Skid Row.
Yeah.
And, you know, it really is not necessarily going to make you happier in and of itself if the seed for that isn't already there.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Many people lose it just as fast as it came.
Right, or get swindled. I mean, there's people, there's
so
vultures that
much.
follow
Yeah.
these lottery winners around.
And a lot of long-lost relatives.
Right, right.
You are
Cousins you
so
never
right.
heard of.
Yeah. Well, it's a nice thing to think about because you have so many different avenues to think about when you're having money. What would I do with it? Would I put it away for my children?
Yeah.
It's so many things, and we hope we've done the right thing, but we really don't know.
Well, this has been real interesting. I think it's time to hear you play,
Okay,
and we'll take a break for a moment and come back and listen to you.
okay. Sounds good.
All right, we'll be
Okay.
back.
The number I'm going to perform is called Markin' Time. I wrote it about 35 years ago when I was living in Venice Beach, California. It's a melancholy song. It's, as the title says, it's about kind of an aimless life, which is the type of life I was living at the time. A few years later, I met my beautiful bride, Paula, and got married, and we've been happily married ever since, so I haven't felt that same type of melancholy, so I haven't written any more Markin' Time type of songs. It's got a lot of minor chords in it, which are typical for sadder songs, and also a real cornerstone of the blues. So with that, I'll give it a whirl, and I hope you enjoy it. Marking time never used to be a crime, just another way of living. Holding on until you saw that it was gone, always seemed to be forgiven. Spinning wheels never used to make me feel that the spinning had a cause. I didn't fear and I never shed a tear for all the things that I loved. That's how it was before, at least that's what I recall. Easy and forevermore, flying free and feeling tall.
up. The earth, the sea, and the sky. Rising breeze carried him away with ease, as if he never had to die. That's how it was before, at least that's what I recall. Easy and forevermore, flying free and feeling tall.
Next up on today's episode of Generations, 3 short and informational videos about cleanliness, future technology, and cooking. When I was a kid, I understood that certain things needed to be washed, dishes and hands mostly. But I've always maintained a certain moderation in this regard. When one understands that about 100 trillion bacteria live in and around the human body, the need to achieve germ-free living seems to wane. But one day when I was 6 or 7 and living in this yellow house, I looked up, and there it was right across the street, a street sweeper, and I was astounded and enchanted. Imagine that, someone and something that actually clean the streets. Streets that are normally cluttered with grit, grime, rocks, bugs, twigs, and of course litter. This experience made a lasting impression on me, so much so that to this day, nearly 60 years later, I note with a certain reverence those city workers who drive past my house every spring just to tidy up the street, for the moment making at least as neat and clean as several of the surface areas within my own house. This year I decided to try an experiment to see just how clean these street sweepers actually made the world right outside my front door. Okay, here comes the street cleaner. My first really desired for a job. Away he goes. Now let's try a little experiment here to see how good of a job he did. There is, of course, the old 5-second rule where if you drop something on the ground, you can pick it up within 5 seconds, although some people, of course, would never consider doing such a thing. So we'll put a cookie on the pavement and leave it there for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and meanwhile, there the guy goes again. So there's our cookie on the ground. We'll even smash it down a little bit here. And let's see. Ah, tastes good. I mean, I can't complain. Tastes good to me. Yum. Thank you, Mr. Street Sweeper. You're the job I didn't get, but once upon a time wished I had. I'm warping our way a decade into the future to show you a useful innovation that has become commonplace in most major cities. By virtue of their futuristic qualities, and with a nod to Arthur Stanley Eddington, who first came up with the concept, these devices are called Times Arrows, and many have been given a design to reflect their name. It's a voice recognition and response system that has been installed in virtually every intersection. It can interpret and respond quickly to any kind of question you ask it, and also fill in incomplete sentences with the most likely correct answer. Some even say it has some eerily human emotions. Let me demonstrate. We're here in 2025 with the Time0 voice recognition system. You activate it with your thumbprint. Now it should be set to carry on a conversation. So Time0, what is it as you look at me standing here that I could stand to lose 10 pounds of?
Wait.
Yes, unfortunately that's true. Okay, the next one. This will be a fill in the blank in the middle of a sentence. When a person is depressed, what of the world rests on their shoulders?
Wait.
Yes, the weight of the world. Okay, now just one more for you here. There's a famous saying originally written by John Milton that was made famous by Churchill during World War II. So fill in this sentence for us. They also serve who only stand and...
Wait.
Yes, wait. Okay, very good. Thank you, Time0. We'll be back to you another day. On to the next segment.
Wait.
No, I've got to go. Sorry. Got things to do. Next time.
Wait.
No, it's over. Okay, your star days are done. And now I'm getting out of here.
Wait.
Once, not too long ago, I decided to take a cooking class to see if I might like the activity. Valentine's Day was just ahead, and our instructor asked us to prepare something that would creatively express our affection for our significant other. After some thought, I assembled 6 items: flour tortillas, olive oil, a kind of crumbly cheese I like, cumin, a cracker, and a piece of chocolate. I placed the crumbly cheese in the tortillas, added the cumin spice, and made these into rolls, which I sautéed in oil in a skillet. Next, I formed these rolls into the shape of a box, used the cracker to help make a lid, and placed the chocolate inside. I proudly presented my work to the instructor, thinking I had done well. She, however, really shot me down, saying, "I didn't want you to make a feta roll case out of it.